today here.
Oh, thank you very much. And your name is?
Taffy Gray.
Taffy? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Claudette Gray.
Okay, Claudette.
Claudette Parrish Gray.
Thank you. That's a beautiful family story there. And
Kathleen Parrish Woodside.
see, your name is part of the history of this community.
And I'm Judy Parrish.
Judy Parrish.
We are cousins. My father was George. Their father was Ralph. There was two other boys, Clair, the oldest, and Jack, the third oldest. Their father was the second oldest, Ralph. My father, the youngest, George. And their mother, Cecil Hatch, was one of the adopted children of Dr. and Mrs. Kellogg.
Wow.
She married our grandfather, Clarence Parrish. That marriage eventually ended in divorce, and she married a Mr. Pickard, Harry Pickard. So she was Cecil Hatch Parrish Picard.
Wow.
And had a lifelong association with Dr. Kellogg.
And I do believe at times she went by, when her engagement was announced in the Battle Creek Moon or whatever, I do believe it was announced as Cecil Hatch Kellogg in that article. So whether legally she was using the name, or, I mean, they referred to her that way, as they did many of the children. So whether the legal adoption was made or not, I don't know.
Thank you. And you were just about to say?
I was just about to say that she had 6 boys.
Okay.
4 by her Mr. Parrish and 2 more by Mr. Pickard. And I was her first and oldest grandchild.
That's tremendous.
And you know, she loved having a girl after all those boys.
There you go. We got spoiled, huh?
Yes, oh yes. Well, she wasn't one to spoil. She was feather strict, which you can imagine what people were in those days. Plus, if you had 6 boys, you would have to be strict.
Could you give me an idea of approximately what years we're talking about in terms of the history?
Judy's better at that than I am.
Approximately what years are we talking about?
Oh boy.
When the family came here?
She was brought into the Kellogg household as a young girl, I would say.
She was about 7, we think.
Very young, and I can't give you the, we do have the date written down somewhere.
I think she was married in 1904.
Oh,
I believe.
now.
I thought it was 07.
Okay, but before the
07.
decade, 1900 to 1910, someplace in there.
How old was she roughly when she was married?
Well, there's a good
Early
question. We could
20s.
figure it out.
Early 20s.
She
Early 20s,
had
okay.
been educated by Dr. Kellogg, as he did most of the girls, had them educated in Bible study, piano, whatever, and she was sent to Philadelphia to school by the doctor for a
Young
year,
ladies finishing
young
school.
ladies school for a year. She is probably one of the few that did not marry a doctor from the San. However, Mr. Parrish, who came from a farm family toward the lake area and worked at the San, did have a major promotion to the head of photography after he married her at the San, yes.
But he was a
history.
wonderful photographer.
Yes.
We have lots of nice pictures because of Grandpa Parrish.
Okay.
And I did leave, when my father, Ralph Parrish, died, I gave photos that the Seventh-day Adventists might be interested in to Duff Schultz.
Excellent.
Stoltz, I'm sorry. And I gave
Luggage.
Dr. Kellogg's suitcase, which had his name on it, across the top in silver, imprinted, not silver plate. And I gave that to the Historical Society. I haven't seen it since, but hopefully it's somewhere around.
There is a storage facility.
Okay, so hopefully it's there. And
Some
then the
pictures.
rest of the pictures were pretty much divided amongst family members. And that was pretty much everything I had. Judy might have had more.
Well, you know what's interesting? So we're talking about back in the 1880s when your grandmother, right, was born. Then the Kellogg's brought her when she was about 7, so that must have been, what approximately you're saying, probably
She died when she
1890s.
We do have the
She
dates
died at
written.
the age of 58.
Okay.
Of spinal meningitis in the San.
Oh, okay.
In fact, it was the San Annex where she died,
Okay.
which has long since been torn
Became
down.
Nichols Hospital.
And Nichols, we have much information on Nichols hospitals because we have some of the people who used to work there actually contributed a great. wealth of
We do
history.
have
for us.
accurate dates if you sometime want to check with Judy. We do have dates
Well,
of their
She
marriage
died
in
in
there.
1946.
1946, and she,
Something
okay.
Like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Perfect.
That's when she died. I
And
never
even when
knew
she
I'm gonna stop
came
this.
to the Kellogg household, they do have dates for that. And there are.
We have some pictures.
We
too.
have
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of, on the back of one of my dad's menus in the Depression where he's figuring out how to eat there. He wrote that on the back of a letter from Dr. Kellogg to the boys regarding their mom. So we do have some things like that around that are just.
all of our fathers, all of the 4 boys referred to Dr. Kellogg as the only grandfather that they ever knew.
Beautiful.
You know, so he had a close family relation.
Well, would you mind if we captured this story and placed it on Battle Creek Stories channel?
Wouldn't bother me.
Would you
I hope
mind?
you edit it so that it made a little more sense.
Edit it, yes, that's fine.
What we'll do, we're gonna go with it because we don't have a lot of time for editing. We'll email to you the address, and you can take a look at it, and you can have it for your very own file.
Thank you.
Is that right? Is that good?
And, you know,
That would be very
and I
good.
don't know
Very good.
how
Thank
long
you.
your camera's gonna last, but the boys all were relatively successful. But one of the stories my Uncle Jack, who was probably the last surviving, told me was that his mother always talked about lunchtime. If the doctor wasn't home, it was just Mrs. Kellogg with the children and her helpers. She counted to 100 for every bite before you
Wow,
could
that's
swallow.
the way of the Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah.
Now, do you
Yes.
know approximately what street or address the family lived back in those days?
Well, Doctor lived on Manchester Street.
On Manchester. Do you remember the
Yes.
number on Manchester approximately?
No, but I remember the house.
What street was closest across Manchester?
Ann Avenue.
Ann Avenue. Very good.
And
That's good.
grandmother lived on Ann Avenue in what had once been a playhouse for the neighborhood children. There were all kinds of arts and craft, beads and raffia, and things in the attic that I used to play with.
That is fabulous.
Doctor let grandmother live there after she was divorced. They didn't have
From Mr. Pickard.
From Mr. Pickard, yes. They didn't have child support and welfare in those years, and
Took care of your own.
grandmother didn't have much, but all 4 of her boys chipped in and helped,
That's the way it was, and that's the culture.
and
Of Battle
they
Creek.
did a good job.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you. That's a beautiful story. Thank you very much. Once again, your name?
Judy Parrish.
Judy Parrish.
Kathleen Woodside Parrish.
Kathleen Woodside Parrish.
Opposite, actually. Claudette
Oh, yes.
Parrish Gray.
Okay, Claudette Parrish Gray.
I'm the oldest.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes,
First
very
cousins,
much.
cousins. Our fathers were brothers.
We look forward to seeing you in the Battle Creek stories.
And I said my
Thank
name
you.
backwards, I don't know.
You can stop.